Welcome to the Soul Revolution Tribe podcast, where we share stories, laughs, and even a few tears, but always a good time. We are about depth and real raw sharing through soul conversations and medicine. We are learning to find ourselves again and to be an unstoppable force of nature, ready to break down the constructs and rebuild them with love and acceptance at its core. We are the new world. Welcome back to another episode of Soul Revolution Tribe. I am Jackie, your host, Shamanic Soul Guide, and Remembrance Facilitator, and I am super excited to have my friend Sam with us today. So Sam is the Modern Mountain Hippie. She is all about helping you create the mindset of resilience and becoming self-reliant. She loves being outdoors in nature and living an intentional life. She really helps you walk the journey of coming back into your untamed self. And this means like the freedom to do and be on your own terms, your own way. So I'm so excited to have you here today, Sam, and share a little bit about your story.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here, Jackie, and thank you. It's just such an honor to get to have this chat with you. So yeah.
Yes. So first, let's start on like what do you see as untamed? Like I know I have a vision what I hold in my mind when I think that, but what is the mission and intention behind that for you?
Yeah. Well, I think, we live in a world where like we've just become so disconnected, right? From ourselves, from our world, from our source, however you want to see that. Um, and we live in a time that has just it's busier than ever. The demands on us are just, we're go, 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 right? I mean, most families, we're both working outside of the homes. Um, we have kids or whatever our obligations are. It's just, and technology, like things have just sped up. We're just so busy taking on the world. And I feel like as that disconnect starts to become bigger, and that struggle that we have to just kind of stay above water and survive. A lot of us, I feel like, are living in just a survival mode, right? So that disconnect goes bigger, and we're just trying to survive, and then I find that's where we start to, like, I like to call it outsourcing the parts of us, right? We kind of start to give away our power to other things, whether that's, we look for happiness outside of ourselves, we look for advice, which is fine. I mean, I understand you do go outside of yourself for advice at times. Our healing, our health, our well-being, like we just start to look to somebody else to take care of those things for us.
And like forget the self-trust. We were just talking about that before we hopped on, is like we are an expert of ourselves and we've
Right.
outsourced that expertness to somebody else to think that they know our being better than we do.
Exactly. And I mean, I'm not saying that, your doctor isn't somebody that you should trust in, but I feel like we need to take what we can from these sources. But at the end of the day, we're the ones that know best for who we are and for ourselves, right?
Using our own discernment is what I hear you're saying. Like make sure that we
Yes.
have our say in it and not somebody else being the puppeteer. Like that's when you share Untamed, like that's what it reminds me of, is like conforming. So like if you
Yes.
tame an animal, you train them into a way of being, and Untamed is going back to that wild, free, childlike expression again, the way we were designed to be.
Exactly. Yes, I love that. And that's it, right? We start to put ourselves in boxes, whether that's with labels or beliefs or whatever it is that we're kind of told about ourselves. And so really being untamed to me is just kind of it's a sovereign thing, really. It's really breaking down those boxes that we've been keeping ourselves in, um, and the conditioning, right? All the things that we're kind of taught and told about ourselves, how things have to be or how things are. really we're the ones who get to determine that. But lots of times we take that on from the outside sources. And
Absolutely.
so
Those
it's really,
outside sources create our reality instead of allowing ourselves to create our reality.
yes, yeah, that's exactly it. And so that's, just being able to kind of take that zoomed out view. And again, it's not that those things that we can't digest, we can still digest them and see how they fit in, and you always say it's kind of that mirroring back to you, which I
Yeah,
really like. Um, but at the end of the day, I think just the ability to be able to get out of survival mode and start really taking control of our lives, stepping back into our power, and yeah, stop outsourcing all the things that we actually have the ability to have control of and do for ourselves, right?
absolutely. And as you're saying that, like what's coming to me is like that learning how to trust ourselves again because we're programmed not to trust ourselves. And in trusting ourselves, and we can trust outside. And the same thing is what I say, like a mirror, what's inside is outside. And if we don't trust inside, we are sourcing situations where we can't trust our outside either. And because it's a reflection of each other. So once we connect back into this is who I am and this is what it is, and I don't have all the answers right here in my conscious mind, but I do have infinite wisdom at my fingertips at all times. And so taking other people's guidance, and that's why I call myself a soul guide. You take somebody's guidance and that's not taking their word as law. What you do is you get their input and they're giving you another perspective. And that's all it is showing you and spreading your horizon to see different angles. And you try that perspective on, and you have the power to say, yes, I choose that, or no, that doesn't resonate with me. And I trust myself to say, thank you, but no, thank you. Like that's okay. You can have those beliefs and whatever, and that means nothing against you. But I also know that I'm in control of my path, and that doesn't resonate with me. I can
Yeah.
say that as firsthand of like when I had my thyroid cancer scare. And people are like, how do you stay so calm and everything in that? Like you can that's the shadow side of diagnoses and things like that is like immediately when I heard that, I said, nope, I don't accept that as my truth. That's not how this is gonna go down. Instead of saying, yes, this is it, and there's no other options, I opened the door of opportunity and possibility and saying, nope, this is not the path I want to go down. I have a big mission and big things to do in life, and this is not the way it's going. And I think that's why I was able to journey through and that I'm cancer free today. Like and that might have been completely different if I chose a different perspective. So I love
Right. Well, that's, yeah. And I think that's a big part of, we take on these things and they're not always, like you say, they don't have to be your truth. We have the ability to go outside of those things. And again, if your doctor is giving you advice on your health, it's not to say that you just disregard it because you
that.
know best, you know, but what can you learn from that and where can you take that,
Yeah.
So that's
Where's the nuggets of wisdom in that does resonate. And what I always say, like when I'm giving you a remembrance lesson, take what resonates, throw the rest out the window. Like it's not serving you right now. That's okay. Doesn't mean that
right,
there was less value there. It just means that wasn't what's speaking to you in this moment, and you can come back to it later because the message is still going to come through if it's meant for you.
right. Yeah, I like that. And that's exactly it. I mean, there's times that, what is, yeah, in that moment, those things might not really apply or make sense or, really be what you need. But down the road, it might, right? So, yeah, I like that. How take what you need now and, yeah, the rest might make sense later or come to be a benefit of you down the road. But in the moment,
They don't serve you,
that's
so
what you
stop
need.
holding on to them and dwelling over them. Like I can speak that from personal, like somebody that's been in their head so much that had to learn how to get back into my body and integrate. Like not being in your head is not a horrible thing. Like I'm not saying that, but there needs to be cohesion, connection, that mind body connection. And I trained myself so much to be in my head to keep my body safe. Like I was disconnected from that piece. And that also is a reflection of what you were just saying and why this mission is important to you is because everywhere around us encourages us to disconnect and put ourselves in different boxes and separate. And we need to come back into that connection, into that wholeness. And that's where this whole movement is going. And I love that. So share with the listeners, like, how did Modern Mountain Hippie um birth per se? Because I know I'm excited because I got to watch and witness this transition to come full force, and like watching you step into your element and really owning all the pieces of you. And we've talked about that too, is how like influenced you can be on the outside of the world, and how certain business coaches, and they tell you certain things, and you take it on and without even realizing doing the work. Like we put in the effort, we've been in devotion for this, but how easily that one thing that is sitting and playing an autopilot in the back of our mind that we aren't digging into yet, they can hit those points just right, and then it brings all that back up of like, oh, maybe she's right, maybe I am not like thinking about my worth, I need to think back on this. And really it's just another revolution around the spiral path, is what I call it, is just another learning opportunity of those triggers for me to unlock another layer of myself to go, I'm reflecting on that, and no, this is my truth. Just because somebody said, like, they were the catalyst to help me figure that out, but then I got to do the reflection piece to come where I'm at. And so share a little bit about how you got from where you were to here, and any other nuggets along the way, whatever you want to share about your journey with everyone.
Okay. Well, I guess this goes back to over a decade ago. I really, I've always been kind of an open-minded person and open to possibilities. I love to learn, and I've always had somewhat of a spiritual connection. But I found myself, I was kind of doing the things that we're told and taught, you need to do to have a fulfilling, successful life. And so I had the education and had the career, and you know created we built our family, and just I wasn't feeling like, I was just kind of in that survival mode, to be honest. That we talked about earlier.
Like
You're busy.
conforming to the path of what was expected of us.
Exactly, yeah, just doing life. You're doing all the things, and yet here I was feeling really empty and kind of lost. And I ended up in a toxic work environment. And I mean, I loved my career. I was an optician. you know um I still really love the work, and I miss it uh at times still. It was a really good fulfilling career, but I wasn't in a happy place as far as the work environment went. But you tell yourself all these things like, well, is the grass really greener on the other side? If I leave this place of work, is it going to be as good? And just that conditioning trying to keep you safe because you're scared to take the risks. And so I ended up staying there longer than I should have. And I always say, eventually universe kind of gives you those little nudges and those little opportunities to make change. And I
You
wasn't
gotta take the
taking those
discernment.
signals.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
we're so trained, the programs are so loud, and they like to talk like they're our intuition. But really it's like using that muscle of discernment to say, is this a program speaking to me, or is this my truth? Is this my soul telling me what the direction I need to go?
Right. Yeah. And so I ignored it for, far too long. And eventually, I feel like if we don't move and we're not catching the little subtle niggle or niggles, um, we end up eventually, it gets worse. Like it's gonna get bigger, right? Like something's gonna wake you up and shake you.
Yes.
And so I ended up, my health took a toll. I just wasn't really, I was surviving, right? I was not in that thrive place. And I ended up, that's when I kind of started to open up to like energy medicine and started to like take on a different perspective. Like, okay, this is what I'm doing isn't working. Like, what can I do to change my situation? And so so that's when I really started to dive deeper into like the personal development and the mindset work and the energy work, and really started to see that there was more out there. Um, and when I talk about outsourcing your power beyond yourself, just taking in the things like, again, being taught and told what you had to do to succeed and live a fulfilling life. I was giving my power away to that. That wasn't really working for me, but here I was like fighting to make it happen. Um, and so, yeah, it was just one of those situations where I ended up looking for things beyond what was available to me.
It's a little bit of awakening is what I hear, is like you're when we hit that rock bottom and we're like, I don't know where to go, but I know this isn't working. And so then we're like, okay, like the prayer to the universe of like, show me where to go because I'm done with the hamster wheel.
Yeah. Well, and even looking from the health perspective, as far as the doctors are concerned, there's only this is, Western medicine. You need this pill. This is all they really have to offer you, right? And that wasn't working. So it really forced me to have to look beyond what we're conditioned. And
Yeah.
it's not that I didn't trust my doctors, uh,
But
but I
intuitively
had
you
to.
knew there was something else because it had to be because you couldn't live life. Why would our creator create a life where we're miserable?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's the missing piece in medicine too, is like right now in Western medicine, like yes, it serves its purpose. I'm not saying that, but we're looking at only one aspect of your being. We look for a physical like source, but we don't realize that if you don't address the root cause and you don't look at all the different ailments, like our body stores, our body is so smart, it's designed to heal and it stores things away, which causes our pain. And the way I look at pain is completely different. Like to me, it's your body's messages, your body trying to get your attention and to spend that time in relationship because everything's about a relationship for me. And like that's I know your story and that's what you're saying is like you're going through and you're like there's got to be something different than what these people are saying and I'm in so much pain, like where do I go?
Right. Yeah. And I think it was for me, that was like the real catalyst to kind of start to dive deeper into like, how can I help myself? Like, nobody else is going to fix me, no one else is going to save me. I have to find some some way of my own, so
The
that really kind of.
self-reliance, and that's that part
Yes.
that like I love that you are embracing that part of you, is because that's what you are a fighter. You everything that would normally knock people down coming at you left and right and you're like nope, I'm gonna find my way, I'm gonna pave my path, and I don't need you to tell me what I'm gonna do because I know that I can find a way.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like it had to dock me right down in order to get there. But that was kind of the catalyst for me to be able to start to move forward and to start to realize that I couldn't rely on anybody else. I had to start looking within myself and for myself. And so I dove into, again, energy healing and medicine that way, and just took a more holistic approach to things, tried different things on. And that really inspired me to want to help other people understand and kind of open the perspective up to, it doesn't have to be one way. You don't, there's no right or wrong. Um, and just kind of that inspiration that you can, you don't have to give, your power away to all these things that you are now. Like there's options for you, right? And so I started working one-on-one with clients, hands-on, and sharing some of the same work and modalities that really helped me to shift. And from there it just evolved
Yeah.
into.
Yes,
Yeah.
and even like the that what I love about your story is it's like how we all kind of do is like we step out and we're like, okay, I'm gonna try this on, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do be brave and put myself out there, and I'll fall back a little bit, but that's part of the learning groove. Like just like when we learn to walk for the first time, you're gonna stumble, you're gonna fall into things, you're gonna do whatever until we find our equilibrium. And that's like where like you're in the sweet spot, and I can feel it. It's like your branding and the where you're at is like taking your whole life journey, and that's your medicine. Like you've learned how to be resilient, you've learned how to cultivate that mindset, not only like just the mind part, the mind, body, and everything all together, all the aspects of our being, to be resilient and be self-reliant. And being self-reliant doesn't mean that we're not leaning on other people when we need to, because being self-reliant is being resourceful as well. And I just love that, and that you're bringing in like your nature part, and like you're a mountains girl. Like I see your pictures and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. I can't wait to go over there because I will be coming to visit you in the future.
Oh, good. Anytime.
But it's like literally
Yeah.
I see like this blossom of self-expression, and that's where it is. It's not like what do I have to do to make this work? It's like this gets to be expression of me, and you really walked the journey. And that's why people can walk with you on that journey, because you went from the conformed, tamed version that the world conditions us all into, to finally starting to break your way out and saying, this is me, wild and free in the way I love to be. And I'm still learning and following my way, but I'm learning that it's okay to be me in that process. And that's what the world needs. I just love it.
Oh, thank you. Well, and connecting back, right? Like I think that's another piece that I haven't really hit on, but I feel like we've become so conditioned and busy, and we've got all these things going on that we've kind of lost kind of that connection to our to our roots, right? To who we really are. And so that's where, you mentioned I do live in the mountains. It's beautiful over here. Um, but just kind of learning to rely on myself or ourselves again. And that's another kind
Connection
of
with
avenue in
nature is
this.
a big thing with you. Like it's a part of
Nature,
your life. So you can connect back into nature and use that piece. And that's not only being self-reliant in the brain, like our mental body, but like in our physical everyday living. And I know that you're very self-reliant where you're at, and learn how to work with the land and connect with the land. Not only connection to ourselves, but connecting to the creation that we live in.
right. And that's it. That's a big part of it for me, is and it feels so good, right? It feels so good to be able to provide those things. And so yeah, we hunt, we fish, we garden, we do all the things, try
All the
to,
homesteading.
yeah. And again, it's kind of not giving that outsourcing. It's great, don't get me wrong, to go to the grocery store and stock up, but it's nice to be able to create those things on my own too. Or whether it's you're out foraging or you're growing in your backyard, and to be able to provide those things without having to rely on somebody else
Yeah,
to
because that could
provide
be
the
taken
for me.
away in an instant. Look at the world right now. That's
Yeah.
how it is. Like with inflation and everything going up, like y you never know what's going to be available for you tomorrow if things
Yeah.
shift. And being able to have those skill sets to fall back on, it's just like a layer of like reassurance and the way life used to be. And for me, like I love that, and I'm working on cultivating that space. Like yes, I'm more in town. I don't have a bigger space like you do, and I love that. But like it doesn't mean that it's not possible. Like I have a little like container garden space and things like
Yeah.
that, and there's nothing more like fulfilling, I should say, is like getting your hands in the dirt and connecting back to our roots, and like doing that piece, the piece, and like growing something like the farm to table thing, like growing our fruit, being able to pick that and teaching my kids like how something from a tiny little seed sprouts into this beautiful thing that provides us nourishment, and how we give it back to the earth, and it's just this beautiful cycle of life. And the love and the tender and the careness, it like makes the food taste different too, is because I don't know about you, but in the society where everyone's so stressed, like even when you go to the grocery store and you get the food, it's like I strongly believe in energetics, and like the way the food was was grown, and how the emotions of the people that were handling it on the way of harvesting it and putting it in there, all of that gets infused. And food is medicine. And so
Right.
as it's taking that, and this apple that has gone across the whole world and was picked too prematurely and was shoved in here, and somebody that's just frustrated and having a bad day, and then somebody who doesn't like their job is loading it in. Not saying that it's always like that, but you have those things, and then now I'm preparing it and I'm putting it in my little child's body, where it's like, if I know where it came from and I know the source and I got to nurture it and I got to speak to the plants and teach my children how to speak life into the strawberries, and you watch how they bloom and they're so beautiful, and being able to teach them that circle of life, that I feel like that's the disconnect that society is missing right now, because most
Yeah.
people don't know how to do that.
No, and that's, and again, I mean, we're busy. Who has the, nobody takes the time, right? I don't want to say nobody, but I understand. It's, we, again, we're so busy that it's easy to just go to the grocery store and get what you need versus, having to put in the garden, and like you say, you don't need an acreage or land. You can start small, like container gardening. There's so many options. Um, but I feel like that's part of the disconnect, and that's just,
Or
kind
even
of
if you don't have the space, it's like for me, I was realizing like where I'm sourcing, where I am outsourcing, because that's part of being reliant too, is like knowing when to outsource and when not, but then making sure that I'm getting like local when I can, and from those farmers, and supporting my community and things like that. Like finding those pieces and making sure it's not just the chemical field stuff, that I'm getting more organic when I can, and figuring out like the balance of, okay, so I have this much money, like, because let's be real, like finances are big right now for
right.
everyone, and
Yeah.
knowing like, okay, so it might be a little bit more of this, but one thing that we've learned, like when you get a higher quality food, the nutrients that you get from it, you get filled faster for a smaller amount of that food. So in the essence, that it may have a bigger price tag to start with, but you're eating half as much as what you would from the empty filler stuff.
Right. Getting that much more out of it. Yeah. Yeah. And I like what you said there, just to go off topic, but the outsourcing thing, when I say that, I say, gotta stop outsourcing everything. You're right. There is a time and a place. There is things that do we need to outsource, right? But then there again, that's our discernment as to what we can do and what tasks or what things need to be outsourced, and that's in life, or whether you take it from a business perspective, like um
Everywhere.
yeah. So I just want to touch on that because, like I say, I
Well,
talk
yeah,
about
and that's what
outsourcing, but
yeah, well, what you're saying is beautiful though, because that's what it is. In order to understand where you need to outsource, is you need to stop outsourcing everything, pull it back in and say, okay, so this seems like a heavy load. What is feasible for me to do, and where is it like the smartest for me in my energy to outsource which certain things that aren't maybe my expertise, and be smart about my outsourcing to make sure that I am getting reliable places that I'm outsourcing to. Like you wouldn't get your guidance from somebody that is in the complete opposite situation that you're doing, like like being wise with the investment of that outsourcing piece.
yes, yeah, that no, that says it really well. And yeah, like you say, there's, it doesn't mean that, it's just you against the world. It's just having that connection to know where and again, the pieces that fit, and yeah, what you can outsource and what you should, have that power of in your own. And by outsourcing things, it doesn't mean that you still don't have control, right? I feel like it's when we give all of that power away and we just rely completely on a system, whether that's the government, your doctor, the grocery store, to just care and provide for us. Like, we need to kind of keep our hand
Absolutely.
in that power that we have over everything. So
And
yeah.
realizing it's an active choice. So I'm choosing. It's not because I have to follow whatever they're saying. I'm choosing to take their advice. I'm choosing to let them do this part of my daily day because my day is busy. Like I'm
Right.
choosing to allow the grocery store to provide for me. And that's what it is like once I learn how to connect with myself, then I can learn to connect with others. But until I have a true connection with myself, I will not have a healthy connection outside of me. Cuz like it is like all of the ways like above so below, as within so without, like all that ties together. And once we realize that and we cultivate and we start here with us, like we're not here to change the world. We're here to change us, in which in turn will change the world, and it will ripple out. And it's just beautiful mission. And I just so excited to see where you go with everything. And I know that it's going to be so fruitful and amazing. And just the little bits of pieces that you've helped me in my evolution in this process, like just so much beauty coming through.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And like I say, at the end of the day, it's all about kind of leading your life with more intention, right? Like just as you said, being kind of more aware and intentional of where you're putting your energy and how you're going about it.
Yes. And that's what you're all about too, is the intentional living
Mhm.
piece. And on that note, what just came to me is like, why don't you share about your program that you're working on, the 28-day experience? Tell people
Mhm.
about that, because that's something that everyone's going to want to be a part of.
Yeah, so I'm close to putting this out there to the world. But this is a 28-day kind of a self-commitment journey, if you want to call it that. And it's just starting to really bring in how you can get intentional on a daily basis. Just trying to be more grounded in your life, right? Again, we're just kind of so disconnected that in that survival mode that it's hard for us to really even get clear on where we're headed. And so this is just a way to kind of ground back into your daily life and not be in that kind of, fiery, flighty
Yeah, it's like
survival mode.
regulating the nervous system back down to a grounded state so you can be intentional.
Yeah. And just, yeah, taking those first steps to kind of, you know, start to really get clear, I guess, on what you want, where you're headed, and what you see for yourself. Again, when we're so busy just kind of hardly surviving day to day, it's it's hard to see further down the road and see past that, right? And start to really kind of set the goals or set your path, create your path.
Your
And
trajectory.
so, yeah, yeah. And so that's really what it's about. And so it's a really kind of going within, self-discovery as much as it is about finding clarity and really getting intentional on how you want to go about your day, how you want to show up to the moment, how and in return, then that's going to help create how life shows up for you too. So just
Absolutely.
taking the time to slow down and get intentional, whether that's you want to get more intentional on how you're caring for yourself or where you see yourself in 5 years. It all fits. So
Yes. And well, that's what I love, that self-commitment, because that's what it is choosing us for those 28 days, taking a little bit of time and setting it aside for me and choosing me and going through that process, and really that devotional space of I'm committing to me and my understanding and my growth, and where being honest with me and allowing myself space of where are my intentions. And if I don't know my intentions, then it gives me time to get that clarity that you're saying, and to be able to have that North Star, is what I say, is like following that North Star in the trajectory of getting there. Because if we don't have a clear North Star, we're wandering. We're
yeah.
wandering aimlessly throughout life.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and that's, yeah, again, just, and I get it. I was there and, there's times I'm still there, right? Like we were talking here earlier. It's just, you're kind of always evolving. It doesn't mean that you're a master of it
Yes.
all, but it's,
I almost have resentment a little bit to that word. It like a little bit of resistance, all of a sudden, like to the word mastery. Because
right.
who says when you finally mastered something and everything has a new layer, like you get to a certain point and there's always room to evolve and grow and expand and learn new things. And it's just my next layer of the shadow that is coming through when I'm realizing I'm like, I am not teaching you life mastery. Like, because I can't teach you how to be the master of your own life. I can teach you how to manage and be in relationship with your life so you can co-create together. But mastery is almost like that slave master mentality that comes through, and I'm like, ugh. Like I feel the resistance in that other layer of that. And yeah, I just wanted to say that because I just feel like it was on my heart, and I'm like, I gotta say this out
Yeah.
loud.
Well, and again, I think, we were having that conversation earlier too, where it's just one of those things where we're all learning and evolving, and it's when you stop going to those spots where you're constantly taking in new information and trying to do better, and it's not that you, I guess it's just adding more tools to your toolbox, right? And I feel like we should always kind of be growing from where we are.
And finding the
And
lesson in everything, because everything
yeah,
is a teacher. My environment is my teacher, my children are my teacher, my friends are my teacher, my people that don't even like me are my teachers. Like all of this is all of the life experience to bring in the full spectrum. And that's what with your 28 days of self-commitment to it, that's what it is all about, is taking that time and committing to yourself and finding the things that are coming up for you, and not only giving you the tools but integrating the tools. You're giving those spaces of, not only am I giving you knowledge, but you get to turn it into wisdom to apply, because I believe that that's also a cycle we can get stuck in. This learning, like I have this lust for knowledge. My husband always says, like Jackie, you have this lust for knowledge, but you're already a walking wealth of knowledge. Like you don't need to keep adding stuff to it. You get to share and be who you are. And I laugh because I lust for knowledge, because the more I know, the more I can share. Like that's a resonant, deep belief in my heart. But that doesn't mean that it should stop me from sharing what I know already. That I get to
right.
evolve, and that used to hold me back for a while because I'm like, oh, I don't know it all. But like the big thing that came to me, and it has been coming to me, reminding me, remembrance over and over again, is like, I don't need to know it all, because life is not about learning, it's about remembering. So when I say that I need to know it all, like I already know it all. All I have to do is tap into it and remember my capability and who I am and how to do that. Because when you need to know something, it will be there, or the resources will be there.
Right.
And as long as you believe that, you will source that.
Yeah. Well, you always talk about, like, yeah, it's infinite knowledge, right? It's available to all of us. It's just a matter of tapping into it and getting
And that's why
resourceful.
so many people have similar downloads, because we're tapping into the universal consciousness. Like it's not anything new. And what I'm saying right now is, somebody's seeing and they're resonating with me. All I'm doing is activating remembrance codes, and that's why I call myself a remembrance facilitator, because I am facilitating this remembrance process for you, just the same way as I facilitate and guide you through a healing process. Because that's what it is at the end of the day. I'm not teaching you anything new. I'm reminding you who you are and what you already know.
Oh, I love it. Such a good way to put it.
Oh,
Uh,
so much goodness, so much goodness. Anything else on your heart that you want to share with everyone? Like anything? It could be any random topic, it doesn't matter. But just what's on your heart, allowing you the space to share. The floor is
oh,
yours. No pressure, no pressure.
yeah. Um, Kind of drawing a blank right now.
And that's okay. Like that,
Yeah.
there's so much that was coming through and sharing with this whole thing. But I think the end of the way, the takeaway is allowing yourself to be authentic and expressed. Like that's what Untamed is all being, and like intentional is knowing where you want to go. And then the only way you can know that is to know yourself and be in connection in that space. But really, like that's the beauty of it all, is like we get to be messy, we get to enjoy the journey just as much as the destination, because at the end of the day the destination doesn't matter, it's the process that we go through to get there. Because I always say, like, you can win the trophy and you can rush the way to get there and win the trophy and literally like sacrifice everything you are to get there. That trophy is not going to mean much to you is if you didn't like slowly integrate and we're allowed to express and still be part of your ways, and you earned it that way, enjoying the process to get there. It's going to
Right.
be two different energies inside of you. And I don't know about you, but I would like to enjoy the process of life instead of suffer through it.
I'm with you. Yeah, no. And that's it. It's much as it is a struggle sometimes. And, if you want to look at it as like winning a race or, winning a trophy, yeah, it might not always be, it's not, the whole course isn't going to be easy, but it's like you said, you got to enjoy it too, right?
Yeah, and knowing that it's worth it and finding the silver lining, and that's not like toxic positivity side of it, is like honoring your process and honoring being like, this sucks. I'm in the mud of this trail and it's up to my knees and I keep going and I can barely lift my feet, and allowing yourself to be in that moment and express what you're feeling, and don't rush through that process either. And knowing that finally you're going to get back to the solid ground and look back and go, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Because
Right.
look at children, like when they come to mud puddles, like that's heaven to them. They're like, yay, let's throw mud everywhere and like splash. Like that's where I want to go back to. I want to look at that mud puddle not as an obstacle, but as a fun experience. And that's
Right.
what I'm all about. Like I just want to play again. Like everybody, let's go to the playground and play.
Uh, we need it. We need it in our life for sure.
Life got
Uh,
so serious all of a sudden. Like I just want to enjoy life again, and that's what it's about. Like we get to
Adulting
choose
though,
which
right?
lens. Yeah, we get to choose the lens we look through, and that's the lens that I'm deciding that I'm looking through now. Everything with
I
those
love it.
fresh child eyes.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like that's another part of, we just get so wrapped up in our roles and our obligations and what we, our commitments and what we need to do, that, yeah, it's so easy to forget to have some fun too. Right?
Yeah. What is it all for? That's why
Yeah.
I connect back to my secret why. Like, why am I doing all this? So it's not about the sacrifice of like the discipline. Like you can look at it as sacrifice or you can look at it as discipline. I am choosing to be self-disciplined now and put in the effort because I know this is where I'm going. And so I'm going to put in the effort that's needed now so I can open space for me to truly create what I desire. Otherwise, if I'm working and working and working and putting all this stuff in, and I specifically use the word work because that's totally different energy versus effort and work, um, it's a different feel. And what are you working for if you don't have that North Star, aren't anchored into your sacred why of life and what you desire to create? And that no one else can tell you that. That's something self-discovery. There's no right or wrong answer to it. Like you get to decide that of what do I truly, if I erased everything out of my mind, anything anyone's ever told me or my past or whatever, no limits, no expectations, what do I truly desire out of life? And give yourself permission to play like a kid would. Like back when you're in kindergarten and they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I love doing that exercise and I'm an adult. Like, what do I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah.
And looking back in those lenses, and it's just that's what life should be. It doesn't have to be a drain.
That's right. Yeah. We gotta, yeah, enjoy the experience, right?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being on with me and having this conversation and sharing a little bit about yourself with the listeners, because I know that they will resonate with your story and they will want to be part of your world. So I'm going to make sure, I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that, but I will drop your links in the show notes to make sure that you follow her on IG and get to know her and keep your eyes open for that new program that she's got going, the 28
Yeah.
days
The 28
of self
day.
commitment. But thank you again.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Always love chatting.
Yes, we could talk for hours, and we do.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul Revolution Tribe and being part of our soul family. If anything in this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share your takeaways. You can find me on IG at Grow with Jackie B or on YouTube at Soul Revolution Tribe. I will see you next week for more soul conversations and medicine. Bye for now, and see you back soon.